you're going to see all these headlines that are like, streaming is saving the music industry. The music industry is breaking out of its slump and reaching new all-time highs in terms of annual revenue. I'm sure labels are going to use these types of figures, these types of headlines to paint a narrative. So they're going to look to all the rising TikTok stars and say like, sign with us. The music industry is going up. We can help you get your catalog sold in the future. We can help you get your streaming numbers up. This is where all the money is. That's not necessarily the case.
What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm Brandman Sean.
And I'm Corey.
And we are back with another episode of No Labels Necessary podcast. You can catch us every Tuesday, every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you stream your podcast, here at the intersection of creativity and currency. This is No Labels podcast. And as you know, we love to have people who represent the no labels necessary mindset. And boy, does this guy right here represent no labels. These are people who do it different, think different. Welcome, Circa, founder of Indiepreneur, Full Stack Creative, Creative Juice, and just all around like indie advocate. Appreciate you coming on, bro.
It's so good to be on, guys. I'm such a huge fan of what y'all do, and that, you know, so enamored that you asked me to come on. Thank you so much.
Stop it.
It's been a long time coming, man. I seen the comments that you made, just basically, you know, gaslighting us. And like, well, I ain't did
that. hey, man, you know, we got to establish our process, man. I don't know if you saw the early episodes, a lot of audio issues and things like that. You know, we don't bring people on until we know what we're doing.
You did the one episode. You did like this one sort of like interstitial where you were like, hey, I'm sorry for the quality. We're making some changes. And I was like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I was watching the whole time.
Subconscious. Y'all know how it is, artists. It's about your stuff. But hey, we got a lot of dope topics that we're going to talk about with Circa. One of the major ideas is the music industry is going to zero. It's shrinking. Also want to talk about making money today. It's something that he's done very well with music, a lot of different hacks and ways, digitally especially, and also when you should start selling to make money and what that looks like today versus yesterday. All right. But starting here, the music industry is going to zero. I'm going to just let you rock, Circa. I want you to talk on it, and then I'm going to bring up some specific points, but I want you to explain the overall idea of why you think the music industry is going to zero.
For sure. Well, so, you know, one being is that like, do I think it's actually going to go to zero? You know, maybe not. That's like a bit of like an incendiary, you know, headline. But
there's an asymptote maybe.
Yeah, but exactly. But like the point being is that we hear so often, if you read musicbusinessnews.com or whatever, you know, like you're going to see all these headlines that are like, streaming is saving the music industry. The music industry is breaking out of its slump from the Napster era and reaching new all-time highs in terms of annual revenue. And I made a video a little while back that to kind of illustrate that, like, that is true if you're not that market literate, if you're not like very intensely into finance and like you know, sort of macroeconomics. Because in 1999 the music industry had a peak of like, I think 21.6 billion or something like that, and then, you know, over the last few years we've been climbing above that, and you would think, okay, we had this big hit with the internet where the music industry wasn't prepared and they didn't do the right things. You can read a great book called Appetite for Self-Destruction if you want to learn more about sort of how the music industry really screwed up in the Napster era. But as a result, they went from like 21.6 billion down, and everyone thought the music industry is never going to resuscitate. And so, you know, over the past few years with streaming and all that, we've been reaching these new all-time highs, and everyone's excited about it, and everyone's talking about how the music industry is back, baby. But if you look at, so like, you know, the music industry, its annual revenue is really a fraction. The number they're giving you is a fraction. It's the music industry's annual revenue over dollars. And so if you're not tracking the actual weakness of the dollar, or you're not tracking the amount of dollars out there in the system, you might be inclined to think, well, we're reaching these new all-time highs. But if you look at the actual supply of dollars, that has increased by 40% over the last half a decade. And so really, you can adjust these numbers to say, okay, given that there's so many more dollars in the system, how much in 1999 dollars, when you account for inflation, are we actually at now? And you'll find that we're actually still at the lows of the trough. We haven't actually been climbing up. We've actually just been staying sort of stagnant, a little bit down from our lows ever since the Fed started printing like crazy amounts of money with 0% interest rates and stuff like that. So, the idea that the music industry is climbing back out of its trough and it's reaching new all-time highs, it's not actually true. We're actually, when you account for inflation, we're actually at all-time lows of the last 20 years.
So a couple things, just to simplify it, right? Inflation, I'm gonna use that one because everybody's pretty common with inflation, right? So partially because of inflation, right, we might be making more dollars as an industry as a whole, but technically there's lower value, right?
Yeah, it's worth less cartons of milk.
Exactly, right? What was the number in 1999, and then what was the number last year? I just can't remember the latest number.
Yeah, so the 1999 peak was right between 20 and 30 billion on this chart. So let's call it like 25 bill, right? And then currently we're at around like 28 billion for last year. But when you adjust for inflation, we're under 10 billion in 1999 dollars. And I can I'll send you guys this chart so you can use it
out on the screen for sure. And I mean, going from 20 billion, 25 billion to 28 billion over 20 years is actually horrible in the first place, right?
Not great.
Not great gains, but then you throw in adjusting for inflation and the fact that we've been losing is pretty crazy. So what does that mean for artists?
Yeah,
industry as a whole, right? And I don't think people think about the industry as a whole, but when your industry is shrinking, what does that mean for you as an individual?
Yeah, so I think that like the all the narrative that comes with these headlines, like the narrative that we believe that like, oh, streaming has counteracted the problems we faced in 1999 or 2000. Sure, it was a problem that music became a digital file type and now could be distributed at zero cost infinitely. That's a problem, but no more problem because Spotify has solved it all. That's just not the case. And so I think if you were to presume that like, the music industry has become once again a good field to be in, it's a growth industry, it's just going to keep going up. I don't know if that's necessarily the presumption you should make as an artist. And labels I'm sure labels are going to use these types of figures, these types of headlines to paint a narrative when they're looking to capture value. So they're going to look to all the rising TikTok stars and say like, sign with us. The music industry is going up. We can help you get your catalog sold in the future. We can help you get your streaming numbers up. This is where all the money is. That's not necessarily the case. And most people with a large audience, I think, would be better thinking of themselves as influencers than musicians, because at least they'd be trying to sell some products and make some money.
Amen.
Right. Hey, that's why we're so heavy on content. We've always been heavy on content. Just understanding that. I think the way I simplify it, right, is because you got all the numbers, man. You're like, so circuit comes with the genius, the great journalism research,
the data.
I go with off of a few sets of data, generally speaking, when I don't have time to research. And it starts like this, right? We look at Spotify. You've mentioned that Spotify isn't profitable. It's no secret, right?
Yeah.
And I think they said they reported a profit in a couple of years or whatever. But like overall, we know they're not like really making money, right? So we could complain so much on the artist end, y'all aren't paying us. But then when you look at the fact that the company that you think is robbing you also isn't making money, you have to go a little bit deeper than just thinking that we're being wronged, right? I know it, like if you stay in that adversarial relationship, it can blind you of the bigger picture that, something's going on, period. Even the person robbing me isn't making money. Then what is going on? Like what moves should I make? And I think one thing that you just said was, right, looking at yourself as an influencer as in totality. And I think we can differentiate that in a second. And then the other side of that is if you are an artist, right, on the independent side, we've gotten all this accessibility, distribution that has happened over the last, 15, maybe 20 years because of social media and these independent distributors, right? I think the problem that occurs is people don't notice that the music industry is shrinking, in your words, because the distribution has spread out. So if I'm used to getting $0, you have all these people who are used to getting nothing now making $50,000 and $30,000 and $500,000 for the first time. You don't notice that the pie is smaller because as far as you individually are concerned, the pie is bigger.
Yeah, that's where the good news is that year over year for the last 7 years, if you take that pie and you divvy it up into independent artists and major label artists, the independent artist share is growing. We are, despite there being less money overall, we're getting more of that money for indie artists than ever before. And when I say the pie, I'm talking entirely about revenue from recorded music. So that's royalties, that is licensing, it's full transfer and sale of rights, it's rights associated with intellectual property, musical works. It doesn't include, your merch, your touring, all of that stuff. So it's important to note because, when we say the music industry, we're talking entirely about the money made from intellectual property.
So some artists and managers are just waiting for lucky moments when the ones who are killing it have systems to consistently take artists to another level over and over again. And if you want to see what that looks like, we just did a collab where we not only show the system that we use that's resulted in Billboard hits, some of the biggest viral moments on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, but also we got J.R. McKee to break down how he took an artist from zero to one of the biggest hit songs of 2022 and getting a Grammy in January of 2023. This is recent stuff, not old tactics. If you want to check it out, go to www.brandmannetwork.com/Grammy. Don't forget the www or it won't work. Because JR gets into the details of looking at the data, decisions that got made, how much content got created, and how they adjusted the content over time for different parts of the campaign. This is real behind the curtains type of stuff. So again, go to www.brandmannetwork.com/Grammy if you want to check this out and apply it to yourself. Back to the video.
Which brings me to something else, but I'm gonna hold that to the end, so not to distract us, man. We got the influencer aspect of things, right? When you say an influencer, we actually literally just talked about this maybe an episode or a clip or two ago, right? The fact that music is not all of the things that people think the music industry is, right? We literally just talked about touring technically is not the music industry, right? Yeah. So using the influencer umbrella, I think we can even broaden and more clearly explain to the audience why, one, artists should look beyond music, but also how some of the things that they're already thinking or about doing actually aren't in the music industry. And that'll probably help people understand the opportunity, even though the industry is shrinking. So can you give us your thoughts on an artist being an influencer today versus yesterday?
Yeah, I think a good, a guy who's been definitely circling the drain in your guys' world, and we're all big fans, is Russell, and what an absolute genius. And if you look at all of his activities, I would say that very, very small portion of Russell's revenue is you could actually attribute to this number of music industry annual revenue, because when he sells way above margin, the rights to a portion of his streaming totals, or he sells, an NFT of an album, how much of that actually gets credited back? Probably only just the royalty allocation. So if I'm selling if I get $2,500 for an album, you're still looking at the same amount going towards the music industry's annual revenue as if I had sold a $5 album. It's the royalties. Because the premium that he's able to charge on that is based entirely off of non-musical stuff. And so, the key being that, if you look at someone in the, we take on a lot of legacy artists who have like tens of millions of followers. And it's like, if I'm a marketer, like an e-commerce marketer, where I help, new e-commerce brands, makeup, t-shirts, whatever, build up their revenue, I'm looking at your socials and I'm determining what's the captive audience here and how much, should this business be making. If it's 500, there are e-commerce brands with 500,000 followers who are making well over $10 million annual revenue. But if you see an artist with 500,000, followers, the presumption is not that they're making $10 million, and so that's real, like our agency wouldn't exist if that weren't the case. We're entirely an arbitrage of how much the music industry expects a following to generate in terms of dollars, and how much we as marketers know that should be the case if we're doing proper extraction of that value. So really, it's like the music industry is very poor, very terrible at turning attention into dollars, as evidenced by the fact that this music industry annual revenue, if you look at the music industry's annual revenue, I did this with Bard the other day on Google, the new Google AI, as I was like, give me a bunch of industries that are below 30 billion annual revenue, but above 20 billion. And, you'll find that like personal laundry services make more annual than the entire global recorded music industry. Yeah, it's a joke because you look like there's so much outsized influence, right? Like the music industry is the cultural mainstay of the whole world. Like everyone knows these people, but they don't. The music industry is terrible at value extraction from that outsized attention. So I think that's the big thing that artists should really pay attention to is like, how much should you be making per 100,000 eyeballs? It's probably way more than the music industry is able to make.
That goes back to our conversation about not encouraging our people to be artists. Remember I said the probability is already so low and then the industry's so bad at monetizing. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation though.
Yeah, because even like we talk about like Russell being a good example of that, because like you said, like he's really just taking influencer community building strategies and applying it to the music world, and it's so revolutionary in music, but then like all the other creative industries are like, yeah, y'all are just now doing this. Like you just realized you need to be doing community building events. It's crazy.
Yeah, he has the audacity to actually sell stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Well, here's the thing. Like we talk. So I think the beauty of doing things well for the long term actually work out from a business standpoint, all right? But you cannot be thinking about it from a business sense. But hey, this is good. This is good for my community. This is good for long term. And when you start breaking things down, you say, oh snap, from a numbers basis, this actually maps out. Like Russell providing his music as something that his fans can invest in, right? Well, when I zoom out and think about it, it's not just, oh, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is a really cool thing to build a relationship, That's cool. And I'm sure he's not thinking about it maybe to the extent that I'm about to explain. But if we think about music as a loss leader, right? Which pretty much has been the approach for years, even in many of the better times of music, it's been looked at that way. All right. So that should tell us something, and things are getting worse per se. So it's still a loss leader. Well, if I know this is my loss leader, why do I not give it to my fans, right? Have them have a stronger relationship. And now it's almost like a break-even product, right?
Yeah.
You own my music and now you want me to win, but except it's even better because as a business, I sell you one thing and now I have your attention and your data so I can sell you something else. However, here, I'm the business, but then I'm selling you something that I'm already not going to really profit that much off of in the first place. And now you're a part of the business. So you're going to be encouraged to buy more stuff because it's helping yourself. So I really don't even have to sell you as strongly, right? So it's a really cool relationship that, again, I don't think it's like super thought out where I'm only doing this because I want to establish this relationship, but effectively it does, which is why that long-term thinking in so many ways for those who are willing to thug it out and do the unscalable things end up winning long-term.
Yeah. You look at, you said loss leader, right? And for those of you out there who are like, don't know, is that like, at the grocery store, the thing that the grocery store makes the least money on is milk and eggs. Historically, up until last year, eggs were very cheap, but because of all the money printing, they've exploded in terms of price. But, eggs and milk, where are they located in the grocery store?
Back.
Like the back, right? You enter in the front left, they're in the back right. And you have to walk through all these other products in order to go get them. And so you're filling up your cart as you go. And there's these big display stands because if you only walk out with milk and eggs, they're not going to make any money, barely. It's not even worth having you in the store, which is why they are constantly trying to get you to fill up the cart on the way. And we use this to explain a lot of different things. It's a great analogy for like lots of different things in digital business, but ultimately to say that like if music is your loss leader, it's what gets them there. But most musicians stop there. They're like, we're just going to give away milk and eggs. Just give it away, give it away, give it away. And at some point, a more capable business person will turn us into a grocery store. And it's like, no, you should be grocery store from day one.
Yeah.
And so that's always been our argument. Now, currently, I would say that like artists are very scared to sell. And I think it's important for artists to like when you guys say, your music is a business and you are a business as an artist. What that means is that businesses interact with people who are not the business customers through transactions, right? The point, like the communication medium from business to customer is transactions. It's not like, here's some free stuff, here's some more free stuff, here's some more free stuff, here's some more free stuff. Go review or like add us to a playlist. Like that's not, it's actual dollars exchanged for value. And artists are very poor at thinking of themselves that way. So much so that like if they make any offer, they feel like they're like the scum of the earth or something like that. And it's like, dude, you're a business. So like most of what you do should be communicating with customers through offers and transactions.
Yeah. See, and I think we're in a time where all roads have led to this, right? So you're alluding to artists selling earlier on, but even if you look at all the other messaging around this and where the industry is, that is what you're supposed to do when you think about it. Because one, fans have been primed to want to support artists. They're more aware of what artists are going through and they want direct access. So the marketplace is primed for that type of relationship, right? And then on the other end, we say labels don't want to invest in an artist who doesn't have a fan base, who's not popping already. And then how do people summarize it? Artists want to really labels want to invest in small businesses instead of a startup artist that's just more of an idea and establish that. Well, if you're a small business, you don't just have a lot of people coming in the store. They're something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like really to pull that all together, it's just reminding yourself that music is only a part of the revenue stream for an artist, and it always has been, right? We've always seen it, known this, but when we stay in the idea and theme of music, we tend not to think about the touring, brand deals, like the people who become actors and actresses. Like there's so many different ways. You're really just a personality, and the title that they put on you is based on how you decided to monetize and brand yourself. But politician, right? a Will Smith, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, like wrestler, but then he gets into all these movies, right? Like it's just a well-known figure, and you decide how you want to monetize it. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. I think like when you decide I'm in the music industry, I'm an artist and I monetize through music alone, streaming royalties for the most part, you're basically saying, I want to be institutionally impoverished. I want to make the least amount of money per ounce of effort I put in that I possibly can. Like there's no other industry that's like, you think if the laundry services industry had Drake followings that they'd be making as, just slightly more than the music industry? No, like it's an audience problem. Music industry has the opposite problem. And so, I would 100% agree that like, the more you think of yourself as an artist that monetizes entirely through music, the more trouble you're going to have. And really, I want to make the point that like the music, like record labels, as much as I despise record labels, they're not bad at this. They just exclusively choose to do it for the shiniest, prettiest, most popular artists that they can find. So if you go look up on the internet, you can look at trademark registrations. When I register for a trademark, like say I register Circa as a trademark, I have to list all of the industries I plan to enter with that trademark. So online, you can see all of my plans for what to do with the Circa brand. You can go look up the Justin Bieber trademark registration. You'll find keychains, perfumes, action figures, every possible field of monetization that they could do with the Justin Bieber brand. They registered for from day one. Okay. So they knew the money is going to come from the lipsticks and the little action figurines, but they don't do that with someone who might have 1 million following, 500,000 following. They don't see it as worth it. And maybe it's not for them, but just to say that like the captains, the titans of this industry, they are not stupid. They just sort of don't care if you flounder in obscurity and poverty as someone with a 500K following, because it's just not worth it. So yeah.
So they're not stupid. They deploy their intelligence selectively.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think for them, it doesn't matter because there's 1,000 artists. They have 1,000 artists with 500K, 1 million, 2 million. They don't care. The person that's going to pay for all of those is the Justin Bieber. So they're mostly worried and exclusively focused on that. But, that's of no comfort to the person who is one of those 1,000, right? That sucks for them. And so I try to make the point that like, you're your only you. For them, you're 1,000 yous. They don't care. And so you're going to put outsized attention, outsized focus, outsized, massive action into making you work. They won't. So keep that in mind.
What do you say to artists who don't like that idea, right? Because you're alluding to something that artists have not liked for a minute. They've expressed, I just want to be an artist, right? I don't want to sell all these other things. And you basically said, and we agreed, that the money's going to come from all this other stuff. It's going to be pretty tough, at least very tough, to just do music solely and, live very well that way.
Yeah. I mean, some of my best friends are artists who are living off of their Spotify check. And it's more than enough to pay their bills. They can reinvest some back in, and they haven't yet tapped merch or anything like that or touring. So they're just an artist on Spotify with a large following. To get there, it took, this one kid I'm thinking of in particular, he innovated a model for building playlists on Spotify and populating them with Facebook. In fact, LaRussell caught a tip off of his friend who caught a tip off of him, who caught a tip off of me about Facebook ads around this era. So it's a very, very cool intersection of stories. But basically he took Facebook ads and was like, I can blow up Spotify playlists with this. I can put, bigger artists I admire, and then myself. And I can make it seem as if there's this company promoting these playlists just to grow a playlist following and sell playlist slots.
Yep.
But really I'm behind it and I'm putting myself, in good company, so to speak.
Yep.
He did that. He now has we started off probably when he started doing this, he had 200K to 300K monthly listeners. He had been doing playlist strategies before. Now he's at 1 million and he's doing great. And his Spotify check pays all of his bills. I would say that's not the majority case. But I don't want to sit here and tell you it's impossible. The economy is such right now that you can make an all right living off of that. If you're single, you have no kids, and you work extremely hard for 5 years to get to a point where that Spotify check's paying your bills. I would say it's making it harder on yourself to do so, and you're incredibly unlikely to do so. And there's always the risk that Spotify craters tomorrow because all the companies like Spotify in this economic environment are cratering. So
the Spotify check paying bills, is nice, right?
Yeah.
However,
Pretty
when
tight.
it's paying your bills and then you want to continue to grow, like how do you maintain these numbers, right? There's constant effort that has to be put out. And I think that's where the struggle goes. You hear about it paying people's bills, but it's like, okay, well, how do I continue to grow my business? How fast can I reinvest in my business if this is all I have, right? And an all right life, like he's saying, well, do I have a wife or kids, or like what does my life look like? Because some people's version of all right is not other people's version, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
and I think that's the difficulty that it comes down to, is just like, if there are those special people where they have a certain lifestyle and they don't want more, about most musicians I run into still want more and they want to reach a certain point. I just don't find it to be realistic. I think if I find it to be realistic to say, hey, how can I get this as high of a number as possible? Of course. But even in most of those situations, unless I want to limit how fast I grow and how much I grow, I'm going to really, again, use this as some type of overhead loss leader, and I need to flip and make most of my money somewhere else.
Yeah, like the individual I'm talking about is an incredibly rare individual, and is young and is okay with having roommates. There's all these factors that go into
what I'm
like,
saying.
it's okay for him, you know? Yeah. So
a period of time, right? You talk about a period of time when that Facebook tip, right, was more effective than probably it is now, right?
100%. Yes, he's no longer building Spotify playlists with Facebook ads. Yeah.
Right. A lot of times when we follow these figures, just like with Russ, right? It's like, well, his era of SoundCloud, by the time you find out about him, a lot of those technological loopholes have, gone
or
away.
Cultural moments, right? Like SoundCloud was a cultural moment.
Cultural moments, exactly. So you have to take the framework, the idea that it occurred, but usually the route to get to that point is going to be different.
Yeah. I definitely want to avoid sitting here and telling people like you cannot make a comfortable living off of Spotify alone. Like there are people out there for whom that's going to be true. Yes. The broad majority of people, it will not be true. And I'm expressly worried about those people. Because it's definitely tough. And if you don't like, this kid's particularly hip in terms of musical genres and styles, right? Like it's not, like he has the right music for it to work in the streaming era with playlists and all that. And it's not everybody. It's a very slim minority of people. So.
Well, there's another idea, because we kind of touched on community. You brought up Love Russell earlier, and this is just in my mind because somebody made a comment on a video that we did. There's multiple comments, but this one.
Was it me? I'm in your guys' comments all the time.
Not you. There was somebody alluding to the fact that he had a ceiling. I think the video was maybe about him making $150,000, and someone was like, well, yeah, he's not going to be able to do that again. Or they're talking about the lack of scalability in his model, right? And here's my issue. It's like, bro, you have to do the work. The unscalable part is a part of the work. Things become more scalable as you get more sources. Everybody's starting off acting as if they're multi-million or even billion-dollar company, thinking that everything has to be super scalable, everything has to be super optimized. It's usually going to be those actions that occur that allow you to get to the point where you can think a little bit more like that. So we take these surface level business understandings and try to apply it like we really know what we're talking about. So this is the way I summarize it, right? I'll just leave it at this because I want to hear your thoughts on it, especially for an artist. But those unscalable actions, community building type of actions especially, they will scale your culture and your brand, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Those other actions where you're trying to scale your business, totally different. But the more you scale your brand, etc., if you're good at monetizing, the better the business will be long term.
Yeah. So first of all, like not even your average marketing professional or even like CMO at a company has any idea what the hell they're talking about when they say the word scalable. Okay. It's just an incredibly common. So Ryan Dice, who's the head of digital marketer, gave a keynote speech 2 years ago at their Traffic and Conversion Summit. He led off the thing by saying, we need to stop saying that's not scalable. He said that the quickest way to kill a great idea before it even gets started is to say that's not scalable. And he made this big point about how they had all these initiatives over the last 2 years that produce outsized returns, and they're not scalable ideas. We're going to talk to every customer who signs up for our, $95 a month product. We're going to, do all of these podcast things that have no direct monetization. Like, there's all these different things that the average person would say is not scalable. You cannot do it at 1 million units per, but it doesn't matter because, how do I say this? Another good analogy is like when you buy a stock, right? You have unlimited upside potential. The stock could go from $100 to $1 million. When you short a stock, which is betting that it will go down, they say, yeah, but your upside potential is only 2x. It could only go to 0. You can only make 100% of your investment back. Whereas if I'm going long on a stock, it can go to 1 million. And it's like, yeah, but it's not gonna. And even if it did, you would sell it 2x. So this argument that like going short on it is only going to give you 100% returns. It's like you don't get 100% returns on any of your, investments. So it doesn't matter. And so this whole scalable thing is like presuming that we're going to go to 1 million units. Chances are we're not going to. So what can we do locally that's actually going to make it a positive impact? So I'd say that like Russell's model not being scalable, it's like, okay, he did this unscalable thing for 3 years straight. What can he now do because he did that?
Exactly.
And is that scalable?
Exactly.
I think the part that gets left out a lot of the time aspect, because you said it with the streaming revenue, right? Like most artists that I know that are profitable purely through streaming, it took them at least like 4 or 5 years to do it, And then so then you talk about like, hey, artists are okay with doing like 4 or 5 years of music work, like releasing music, maybe doing shows and things like that to build up this really small check in the future versus like you could spend maybe half of that time and possibly come out with a 5x spend, because we made the point of like, LaRussell doesn't stream as well as a lot of artists in the industry, but he makes more money than a lot of artists in the industry because of exactly what you guys just talked about. So I look at it like, where's the value of the effort best spent? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember who the guy that said to us, but it might be like Alex from Mosey always says, right? Like, if I told you, you can make $1 million tomorrow, or you can make $10 million in 10 years, like, which one would you take? You know what I'm saying? Like, most people take the $1 million tomorrow over the 10 million in 10. You know what I'm saying? And I see it a lot with the artist community. Like, hey, I want the immediate check today, which is the streaming revenue, although I could make 300,000 in 2 years from that if I just focus on talking to everybody in my Discord or or whatever that community building stuff looks like.
So an anecdote is that this gentleman on our agency, Andy Hunter, he has a band called As December Falls. Over the last 5 years, they've sold out a different tour every year and just grown the cap and the amount of dates as they go. And they did it all with Facebook ads and like ticketing funnels, just selling directly to people who have no idea who they are. And they all come to the shows. And now they're at a point where they're getting festival billings and they're able to have those kinds of agreements because they just have such a strong track record of selling tickets that they can get booked at more impressive places. And he told me that they were on bills with people like, he was like, we don't have the clout. We don't have like Spotify clout. We don't have press clout. And all these artists that we're playing with, that we're billing with do. And he's like, we want to try to get some of that. And then he did the festival. And I talked to him afterwards and he's like, we're in the green room with bands who are like the media darlings in our genre right now. And they're on benefits. In the UK, benefits is like welfare. Okay. And he said they get like $600 to $1,000 a month from the label and they're on benefits. And it's like, he's making money as a whole business, like, he probably makes the most per fan out of anyone on that bill. And this includes people like Green Day and Sum 41 are on that bill. So yeah, it's really, it's outsized returns for the amount of effort. The key thing that we've been doing over the last year with artists working one-on-one, before we had this thing called the free plus shipping and handling funnel. It's a concept in marketing that like everyone knows. It's not ours. We didn't invent it. We just ported it over from direct response marketing to music. And it's like, we're going to give away this loss leader item. And this is another important point about loss leaders is like the reason you ever come up with a loss leader is because you already have a product that it leads to.
Yes.
You're not just in the business of making loss leaders.
Just to lose, yeah.
Yeah. So like the product comes first. How you're going to make money off of it is first, and then you come up with the loss leader. But yeah, so the loss leader in this case is a free CD. And all the arguments come out of like people don't listen to CDs anymore, and no one cares, and they don't know who you are, and it's like, okay, but it works somehow still. I don't know how. I don't have any logical reason for why, because I don't think people have CD players. But they're offering a free CD. The ad is just like a master cut of their most exciting content, and it's just like, we've allocated this budget to give away these CDs. You just pay shipping and handling. And the shipping and handling in some cases will cover the costs of printing the CD, but not always. That's not necessarily the goal. But ultimately you should roughly break even plus ad costs. But the key is that it's a loss leader. So when you go to checkout for the free CD, you put in your credit card information to pay for the shipping and handling. And then now we've crossed the bridge of putting in your credit card information, which like doing this is the hardest thing to do in online business, right? Getting them to, okay, I'm going to pull it out and type in the numbers and stuff. Once you're past that, there's no friction to adding additional items to their cart. And so once they've checked out, they will offer an additional CD from their catalog, or like a merch item to go along with it. So they'll choose different follow-up items, and once you're there, it's a one click to add it to your cart, and then it processes. So all the friction's behind them, and they can just add items, as much as the customer feels comfortable or wants to get. And so relatively unknown artists are taking their ad spend, and for every dollar put into this ad campaign in this marketing funnel, you're getting $3, $4, $5, $6 back. They're making like 600% immediate return on their investment. And so
magic, especially for an artist.
Right. And it's like, it's not a new strategy. This thing's like 10 years old, right? This type of funnel, it's old. And people are used to it, and people don't listen to CDs, and all the arguments are there for why this shouldn't work. And yet for artists of the most obscure genres, who don't have a big following, it's just working. And it's like, you could be making money now, man. Why do you want to just keep producing loss leader after loss leader for 5 years to then sign up with a label and be on benefits? Like, it sounds like it sucks.
And I find that works, especially for artists in more obscure genres, because it's hard for people to find you. It's that the overconsumed popular trendy genres have a little bit more trouble converting like that. But for those artists who are struggling and like, man, this path doesn't, like all the stuff that you're doing, I'm not streaming as well. If you're not streaming as well, outside of you having bad music, ironically, it could be an indicator. If there's still like hardcore fans and your genre is a thing, you probably should focus even more so on just going straight to merch monetization. Not merch, but like product monetization, because it's there. And they really appreciate it even more so because it's harder to find you. Yeah.
And there's less out there for them.
Yep.
So when they see it, they're like, oh, this is me, like they're like, no way. Totally agree. And what I love about, like, I see you guys as having been disordinately early to what was coming with TikTok. Okay. So I saw you guys like talking about TikTok when, we exist in a space. There's music marketery people all up and down TikTok right now. There's thousands now. It's way more than when we started. And they're all recommending different stuff, and a lot of it is TikTok driven today. But you guys like really went out there when it wasn't safe necessarily yet to do so, and saying like, this is it. Right. And what you guys are able to do with your content strategies is, because we're with indie artists, we're using Facebook ads to get the traffic, the eyeballs on the offer. And then people take the offer. So when people take the offer, that's conversion. The Facebook ads, that's traffic, in this case, paid traffic. And you guys are masters at generating free traffic through content. So when you couple that with the conversion part, which is an offer, like, hey man, the thing about like artists, I think you need to realize is like an offer isn't, you can say no to offers, but if you're not making them, no one can say yes. So just make, what's the worst that could happen? People just don't take it, you know? So that's the conversion part. Make an offer and no harm, no foul if they don't want to take it. But if they do take it, now you're making money. So if you can delineate everything into just traffic and conversion, the goal is get your traffic for less, get your conversion to be worth more. The conversion of a Spotify listener is like 40 cents max per month, right? Like it's unlikely for you to get a whole lot of juice out of that conversion. So try to raise the average value of each conversion. And typically that's done by introducing products. You could go so far as to have like, I've never seen an artist do this, but like you can sign up with a company and promote their product and get, a ref link and make money for every sale that they make, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, even if you don't have a product, you could be making more per conversion than sending them off to Spotify, I would say. So hopefully that's the change we see, where indie artists are able to make even more of a premium off of the attention they generate than they ever have.
I think it'll get there, because I think, like, to Sean's point, like, we're so used to seeing like the cool mainstream artists kind of control the monetization narrative, and like we see so many of them struggling. I think, like you said earlier, the indie artist market is growing so much that now there's this wider pool of artists that know the game. And, there are more obscure artists today who have the chance to be successful outside of that because of everything we just said, right? Like, hey, I know that being a mainstream darling isn't for me, but I can still make $200K a year. You know what I'm saying? If I just go do these other things that those artists aren't even willing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not even willing to put in the pushing.
And their middle class on those more obscure genres is probably going to be better in proportion, because like Circus said, they're excited to see you. There's like an identity aspect of it. You represent me. But then if you're a lower class, popular niche artist, right? Like if you're in that niche, not just a struggling, but your fan base is being trained to not pay for shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a key concept in business that you guys probably heard before, is that if I sell time management and productivity help, maybe I can make, I have some potential to make, right? Like I can make like $1,000 per 1,000 people I get in front of. If I sell time management and productivity services for salespeople, now I can make 2,000, because the audience is smaller. They have more specific needs. If I can sell time management and productivity help for salespeople who sell direct to business, it goes up. Direct to business in the manufacturing industry, it goes up. Direct to business in manufacturing children's toys. Okay, now I'm at the high, because I deal exclusively with you. Mm-hmm. I don't deal with all these other types I deal with the exact problems you face. And so niching down tends to grow your premium that you can charge. Same concept in genres, right? If there's only 5 of you and this person really likes that type of music, your premium goes up. People are more willing to spend.
100%. Man, are there any thoughts that you want to leave us with today, Circa?
Yeah, just to say that, like, we're in a really, crazy, time in the music industry right now where it's easy to get fooled, and it's easier than ever before to make a living off of being an artist. Mm-hmm. But there's more traps than ever before that you can fall into. And I just say that, like, if you're really serious about being a full-time artist, really consider, especially what these guys are telling you, and how you can actually have a product to offer. It's like, once you have a product to offer, at least you can make the offer to the people that you get in front of. And if they take it, great. Like, now you're making money as a business, and you can scale that up, infinitely as you get cheaper sources of traffic and higher premium forms of conversion. So
we got to remember, though.
Yeah.
Sure, you learn what scale means, right?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I mean, I think I started in tech. I feel like I remember when I can track the word scale and scalability became more popular. It actually, if you go like pre-2010, it really wasn't all that popular. As tech and entrepreneurship kind of got paired together, and Mark Zuckerberg's, all that world started to become more sexy, everybody else started adopting this scalability concept because it's so popular in that tech culture, and the investing and all of that was exploitation and overdone as well, right? Like our artists, there's a lot of young founders who got exploited like artists have in many ways, but like that was not a term, and the world was doing just fine. We're not worried about scalability.
People don't think about the other side of scalability, which is like, okay, scalability is constrained by total addressable market.
Yes.
And it's also constrained by, in any way, if in any way would exclude someone from that total addressable market, it's less scalable than if it was inclusive. So the most scalable thing in the world is also by nature the most bland, generic, unexciting thing in the world. Just because it can scale doesn't mean it's going to, So that's not everything. Don't engineer everything to be the most scalable. Otherwise you're going to be, selling cartons of milk.
That's why you also said, or the point that you just made about the blandness is actually why it's so hard to make something completely scalable from ground zero, because it's so bland and boring. How can you even convince somebody to become a customer, right?
Yeah. And the less scalable something is, the higher you actually can get away with charging for it. So it's not the scalable concept is not everything.
Don't worry about it. Yep. Don't worry. All right. So appreciate you coming on, Circa. Where is the best place for people to follow you?
You can check, we're on all socials, but probably, where we put out the most content is our podcast, which is also on our YouTube channel. So check us out at Full Stack Creative on YouTube. We put out videos and podcasts, and hopefully we get to have you guys on the podcast in the very near future. Because we're such huge fans of everything you guys do over at Entrepreneur.
Appreciate it. Y'all follow and check that out. This is yet another episode of No Labels Necessary podcast. I am Brandman Sean.
I'm Corey.
And we out.
Peace.